Hello, City of Champions. Welcome to another episode of the podcast where today it is my pleasure and great honor to be chatting with 8-time world women's boxing champion, Jelena Mrdjenovich. Jelena is a local Edmonton girl and certainly fits the City of Champions moniker to a T. We talk about her entry into the boxing world. We talk about constantly facing doubters throughout her career, fair weather fans, people saying that there's no place for women in boxing. We talk about not mistaking her for a princess, which some of her opponents had the misfortune of doing. She showed them. We talk about her various side hustles she had to do to support her boxing career for the love of the sport. And we also cover the City of Edmonton's current moratorium on combative sports. If you don't know the background of this, essentially the city 2 weeks ago passed a bylaw saying they won't grant permits for combative professional sports in the city for the next year, which obviously has wide-ranging implications on all sorts of people, Jelena, local athletes, local businesses. It's pretty serious stuff, and it seems that not a lot of people were consulted when this decision was made. So, again, we cover this topic pretty thoroughly. So, hope you enjoy the podcast, hope you learned something, and hit me up on the DM for any comments, suggestions, or just some love, whatever you got. Sitting here today with 8-time world women's boxing champion of the world, Jelena Mrdjenovich. Did I get that right?
Mrdjenovich, yeah.
Mrdjenovich, so close. I knew I was going to screw that up.
No, you were listening to Metzi too much.
Oh, gee, he screws up everyone's name.
All right.
How are you today?
I'm good.
Thank you for having me in your brand new, beautiful boxing studio.
Yeah, it's coming along. It's looking good.
How did this come to be?
The studio, I basically wanted to bring what I love about boxing to the general public. Boxing gyms can be super intimidating. I remember when I started, it was like I had to build myself up to even just get the confidence to go into a boxing gym. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to make something welcoming, make something aesthetically pleasing, and just have for people to experience the great workout that I've got to experience my last 15 years. And
you're obviously done a million interviews in your life because that was a perfect segue. Let's talk about how you got started in boxing. Where did it all begin?
I guess we'd have to, go back to like 15 years minimum.
Yeah.
Aging myself here.
The audience isn't good with math.
No, okay.
Don't worry about it.
I remember I was in university. I was playing basketball at U of A. Mm-hmm. I blew my ACL out.
Yeah.
Like
devastating
terrible,
injury.
devastating. First practice of actually making the team. Like I went through all of the tryouts, all of the training camp, all of the grunt shitty work. Yeah. Like it was terrible. And then
so that's your first year at U of A?
First year at U of A. And
were you a basketball high school star?
Basketball, volleyball, all-around athlete kind of thing. But then I decided, I'm going to commit myself to basketball. And then, seriously, blew my knee out the very first practice. Yeah. So, U of A, and this was back in Trix Baker days for all the older people like me.
Okay.
They were amazing. The team that we had was incredible, and they all supported me. I did an amazing rehab. Actually almost too good, so I was rehabbed way before. Back in the day, it was all timelines. Mm-hmm. So you couldn't be ready before the timeline. They wouldn't medical you to be able to full out go. It was weird.
That's weird.
Yeah, so I was ready to go. I was already playing pickup ball, and then I got the stern warning, hey, Jelena, you shouldn't be doing this on school grounds.
Right.
So
you're on the IR, yet you're still out here schooling people on the courts in Edmonton, or
playing with all the football guys, all this stuff. You probably shouldn't do pickup ball at noon at U of A. It gets intense. So anyway, I was looking for something else to do, and my dad and I were actually watching a super fight on TV. Mm-hmm. It was De La Hoya somebody, and I had been the casual boxing fan. And so we were watching it, and I was they were talking about the purse money and how much money they made. It was a couple $1 million. And they were one
fight.
One guy.
Yeah.
Never mind one fight, one guy. And the other guy was complaining about how much money he was making. Mm-hmm. And I look at my dad, and I'm like, Dad, what am I doing wrong? $1 million for one night? Can't be that hard.
Yeah.
And my dad and I are super close, and he's like, honey, he goes, it's not as easy as it looks.
Right.
And I was like, come on, it's $1 million. And he goes, I bet you couldn't do it. And I am like, in my genetics, I don't know, in my chromosome, I am so stubborn. So I was like, light bulb went off, and I was like, okay, challenge accepted.
I'm sticking it to you, Dad.
Yeah. And so literally, like I said, it took me like a few days to like convince myself to actually go to a gym. And like we're going back like 15, 16 years, because this would have been like my year of amateur.
Yeah.
And like,
so how did you do the research? This is back before like Google was an everyday thing, right? So how did you do your research?
Google was just
you pull out the old phone book, like the yellow pages?
Totally. Boxing gyms.
All right, I've got 4 here. Let's start with it.
Yeah. I called a couple. They weren't open during the day.
They weren't open during, like, they're open in the evening?
Like, no, yeah.
Okay.
So most boxing gyms typically, the amateur gyms at least, are only open in the evenings.
Like 4 to 10 kind of.
Not even. Like 6 to 8 is like Avenue.
Yeah.
A couple are afternoons. Like Panther Gym isn't open until 5 p.m. Like, so this was daytime. I think it was like just shortly afternoon, and I found one of the gyms and they were open. Yeah. And they said to come down.
Who'd you call?
This was way back. It was Wind Warriors.
And they're not around anymore?
They're not around anymore.
Okay.
And it was an interesting experience.
So when they picked up and there was a girl on the other line inquiring, what did they say?
They actually had one, which was interesting because they had 2 females at the gym at the time.
Okay.
So, and this was way back where it wasn't really accepted or normal for women to be in the boxing scene. So he was like, yeah, come on down, check it out, bring some shoes and some water. And I was like, okay, sweet.
Easy.
I like went down to the gym and like the first day I think I was there for like 4 hours. I was like hooked right away. I was like,
so you're already athletic and you just like started doing one class after the next?
Just day after day. It wasn't like classes. You just showed up and you started progressing and working. And,
okay.
You know, like I can say I got bit by the boxing bug immediately.
Okay.
So for me it was like from like, oh, I want to try out this sparring thing, and like we did drills, and this girl, there was like an older lady that did she was just coming for workout fitness, and she like smoked, like, women are catty, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
So they're territorial, and this was way back 16 years ago when it wasn't common for women to be in boxing gyms. So this lady got so territorial, and we were doing drills, that she smoked me right in the face, accidentally on purpose.
Do you know who it was?
I can't even remember her name now. Like, this.
Do you think she remembers you? That's the question. I mean, I punched that girl out before she even got
she didn't punch me out, but my nose got, like, it was the first time I'd been smoked in the nose, and like my eyes got all watery, and I was like it looked like I was tearing up, but it was just like,
how close were you to quitting at that point?
Oh, never. Not never. At all. I was like, I remember thinking to myself, you know what, payback's a bitch. Yeah. And I was like, no, we're going to do it the next day.
Yeah.
So, you know, I definitely got my fair share back and a little bit more in return, so it was good.
So would you say you followed a typical progression from like just starting to training to sparring? Like, how much quicker were you than the average person? Like, and when did you get in your first like amateur match?
So actually that was really funny. So I started boxing. I never told anybody in my family.
Just your dad?
Not even. I didn't tell anybody.
You're like, I'll tell them when I'm good.
This was like, my family wasn't fully living in Edmonton. We're from an hour west of the city. My siblings were going to school everywhere. So I was the only one here. And my dad was still living part-time on the farm and part-time in the city. And so I didn't tell him. I didn't really have to answer to anybody. So I like, all of a sudden, you know, my family's in town. I'm like, hey guys, I'm doing this thing like tomorrow night. It's like Friday night. I'm like, do you guys just want to show up? Like, I didn't even tell them what it was. I'm like, you know, like and if you're an Edmontonian and you're listening to this is like Yellowhead Hotel, like in the basement.
Oh yeah.
Where there's like the skeezy strip joint. Like,
yeah. A great buffet there, don't they?
So I've been told.
Yeah, me too.
So, way back in the day, we used to rent that and do like our golden gloves or bronze gloves or silver gloves. So my first fight, amateur fight, was at bronze gloves. So bronze gloves is where you have 0 to 3 fights, and it's a tournament. So you go in, you get a draw, you do it. So anyway, I tell my parents, I'm like, hey guys, you want to just come watch this thing? It's in the basement of the Yellowhead, and that's all I said, and I hung up. Yeah. So my parents are probably freaking out because the only thing that's in the basement of the Yellowhead,
strippers.
So obviously they showed up.
They're like, wow, I really didn't see this coming.
They were probably like, my dad was just like freaking out. And so they came, and it was a lot of fun. Like,
They walked in, they're like, this makes more sense. She seems more of a boxer than a stripper.
Definitely zero stripping in this body. But yeah, no, during the they've always been extremely supportive, so I've been very lucky.
How'd that first fight go?
I won. I stopped the girl.
You stopped her?
Yeah.
And then how you were bit from the moment you walked in, but how quickly did you progress up to amateur, and when did you first turn pro?
So I was about an amateur, and I had about 13 amateur fights.
Is that a lot? A little?
It's a little.
Yeah.
Like, it's a little, like, for example, a lot of these amateur fighters now have 80 plus fights. Like Robbie, who's just turned 2-0 as a pro, he's had 80 amateur fights.
Right.
Been boxing since he was 13, like, went up through the thing. So when I started, I was 18, 19 years old. I think 19 by the time I actually started.
Yeah, and that's a little later down the line, right? Like, typically you'll start when you're a teenager.
Yeah.
So at what point do you decide, or when is the decision made to turn pro? How does that work?
So I had left the gym that I was at originally, started, and I moved down to Panther Gym. I was working out on my own kind of thing. And then my dad was having lunch with my now coach, Milan Lubovec, and who's a family friend. And so I walk in to meet my dad and have some lunch and hang out. And Milan's like, how's boxing going? And I was like, oh, it's okay. He's like, how's training? I was like, yeah, it's good. I'm just training at Panthers on my own. He's like, looked at me and like gave me this dirty look. And I was like, I'm like, what? And he's like, you can't be training on your own. You need a coach.
Right.
And I'm like, well, kind of didn't work out with the other people, so I'm just working out on my own.
Right. Do your own thing, right?
Yeah. And so anyway, he's like, no, I'll meet you at the gym tomorrow at 3. Don't be late. And I was like, oh, okay. So literally the rest is history after that. So he's been by my side since then. So since the first year I started boxing. So for like literally 15 years, he's been my coach. And his style and his progression and basically the way we both are, we had a couple amateur fights, and it was getting frustrating because you'd weigh in at these tournaments, and then some of the trainers, if they knew you were fighting or if you were on the list, they'd pull their fighters out. So like a lot of fights would fall through, and we were just getting frustrated. And he's like, you know what? He goes, why don't we just make our own fights? Why don't we turn pro? We can pick who we fight. At least we know we get ready for something. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure.
Right.
I just want to fight.
Yeah, exactly. And you didn't care if it was pro or amateur or whatever.
And so that was kind of the attitude I had. I'm like, yeah, okay, I just want to fight. Like, this is stupid getting ready for nothing. Like, I want to get ready for something.
You got to play the games, right?
So, yeah, so we decided to turn pro. And, like, I remember that was 2003, I believe. January-ish.
Okay.
And that's just kind of where we went. We were like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah. And then, I went on... That was a long time ago. Went on a little bit of a
trip. That was 49 fights ago, right?
49 fights ago, yeah.
What percentage of your fights have been in Edmonton versus elsewhere?
I think we did the math on this. I'm not sure, but...
I thought I read somewhere that 38 of your 49 fights have been in Edmonton. Does that sound about right?
Close, yeah.
Yeah.
We're very close to that. I had 2 in Calgary. Yeah.
Did your fandom, your spectatorship start to gradually increase over the years? Did it go from the family to all of a sudden like you've got an actual contingent of fans in
Well, it's
Edmonton?
funny because like when I turned pro with a bunch of other guys that we all kind of trained together as amateurs, and we all turned pro around the same time. And so it was way back in Cougar Gym days when there was a lot of guys there training, and so I was like almost like a sideshow on the card. So I was like first fight out, and I like didn't get paid. I don't know when the first fight I got paid for to actually fight.
Like you were supposed to get paid and they just didn't pay you?
No, it was like if you want to fight, you have to. We're not going to pay you. And
you're like interning.
Yeah,
you're like interning in the fight.
Or like if you want to fight, we aren't going to pay you. But we'll give you tickets. You have to sell this amount of tickets to pay for your opponent to come in. And then that's it.
Right.
So, I mean...
How bad did that drive you? Like, were you just like, fuck you guys? Was that a chip on your shoulder?
It wasn't a chip, but it was, like, definitely, like... it was like, you're like, well, I'll show you. You know what? I'm not going to let anybody tell me what I'm going to do. Yeah. Like, I'm going to write my own story. I'm going to figure this out on my own. So, you know, it was a grind. It was a hustle. Like, it was...
slanging tickets, training.
Seriously, you're running around, like, hustling tickets to everybody you know, which is tough. Like, you know, I'm in university.
This is pre-social media days.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what people don't understand.
What do you do? Like, take out flyers?
You just, everybody you know. Like, and I mean, it's easier if you can have a little bit of a personality and some friends and a network. Mm-hmm. I'm great because I'm lucky, not great. I'm lucky. That I have a big family. We're all close in age, and they're extremely supportive.
Right.
You know, the Serbian community in Edmonton got behind me because my dad.
Of course.
So my dad would let everybody know. My trainer's Serbian too, so he'd let everybody know.
Serbian pride, you play off
that.
Yeah.
So, and then it was like some people are just genuinely interested in seeing a female fight. Right. They were like, well, this should be good.
Yeah.
Is it going to be foxy boxing? And I was like, yeah, it'll be foxy when I knock you out. No, but so it was like, it was a long road.
Did you fight a lot of doubters? Not fight, but like,
100%. I still do. I still do, even to this day.
That women's boxing,
where you can't fight.
Boxing?
You can't really fight. And I was like, weird. I said, I have a clip on YouTube that has over 3 million views plus.
Which I'm sure you didn't see a dime for.
Different renditions of everything everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, people are like, oh my God, I seen there was a clip of like the 15 best knockouts ever, and you were on it. And I was like, yeah, I'm really proud of that knockout.
So let me ask you a couple things. What has been your toughest fight in your career?
And that's hard to say. When you have 49 fights, each fight was different at a different moment in my career.
Yeah.
And like, you have to also remember is like, with women's boxing, you don't get paid a lot. Like I said, I didn't even get paid for my first like 10 fights.
Right.
So you were working full time, plus training, plus fighting, plus slanging tickets on the side. So I think every fight taught me something different.
Okay.
You know, probably first toughest fight I remember was my first loss. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that showed me a lot about the support, the real support, and the difference between real and fake fans.
Right.
And support, same thing.
Right. When things aren't going your way, who sticks around, right?
And I mean, Edmonton, I love Edmonton, but it is a tough city to be from when you are on the downward spiral.
The expectations of athletes in this city, thanks to those 1980 Oilers, is just sky high.
I know, right? These guys are like, you guys are amazing, but you did us wrong.
Yeah, you really set the bar. I mean, City of Champions is great. But I mean, 5 Stanley Cups in 7 years, that's real tough to beat, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I think we've got great fans here too. I'm sure you can agree. Like, we stuck through the decade of darkness. Last year saw some success with the Oilers. You don't know that? Decade of darkness. Those are rough times. That's why any Oilers fans that are under 20 right now, it's like, good on you. Like, you know, you actually started at a time where we sucked.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah.
So we were talking about your favorite or your toughest fight.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about your favorite loss, if there is such a thing. The loss that taught you the most. I mean, one that you really grew from.
So there is the only bad loss that can ever happen is if you don't learn anything from it. There's no such thing as a good loss. A loss is a loss. Yeah. I've learned something about myself, about who I am, what I want to become, who I want around me, who has your back no matter what, and who's just a fair weather fan.
Right.
So as much as I would love to erase the 10 losses that I've had, each one of those 10 has taught me something about me. It's helped me grow as not only as an athlete, but as an adult, as a person, as a woman, and just my character. So, you know, it's kind of tough when you look on paper, because I actually don't think I lost half of those fights.
Right.
But that's one of the parts of being an athlete and parts of not being able to decide. Like, the only way to make your own decisions is to win by knockout.
Right. For sure.
In boxing, and
that's the absolute.
Unfortunately, our sport is riddled with bad decisions, bad judging. It's unfortunately one of the things that happened.
Does being in such a physical and intense sport as a career for you, what does that teach you about normal life? How does that like almost dampen normal life? Like you must just be super relaxed all the time outside of the ring.
I'm like, what is normal life?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It's all perception, right? Like my normal is me.
Right.
You know, everybody has their own perception of normal. Mm-hmm. So like it was funny because I was talking about a bunch of stuff with my siblings and like even just my friends. And I was like, I can't remember what it was, and I was like, well, that's normal. And they were like, no, it's not. That is not normal. And we got this big argument. I'm like, but that's my normal.
Yeah.
Since I've been 19 years old, mm-hmm. I've been a professional athlete. I'm now 35 years old. What my normal is different than yours.
Right.
So I laugh when people say, well, what does normal life look like? I'm like, I don't know. This is like my everyday is my normal. Like, right now, I would say my life is atypical. It's not normal right now because I haven't had a fight since July, and I haven't been training consistently, and like so my life right now feels like it's in shambles.
Right.
But that's because that's what we build our normal off of. Yeah. Like so for me to not train makes me feel like terrible. Like it makes me feel like the wheels are I've fallen off. Now we're like dripping oil, and now like you can't just replace the wheel. You have to give the whole body a tune-up.
Right, and you've been so goal-oriented your whole life, right?
And
to not have an upcoming fight, how do you replace those goals? So, tell you, what do you look for to give you motivation to keep going?
Well, and that's something where I've been fortunate enough with my family being entrepreneurs, and like that's the way I was taught. That's basically my genetics are to be driven that way. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's helped me a lot in my boxing career too, is just to be very driven, very goal oriented, and not accept failure. And so for me, that's what's driven me through my boxing career, but also through other parts of life. You know, with female boxing, I can't sustain my career just on boxing. Right. So I've done a lot of different little businesses, you know, from like renting furnished apartments that my family like had an apartment building. And so when I was in my 20s, so I didn't have to work as hard, which is like relative again, I fully furnished apartment building, like apartment units, and sold them, like rented them out to Shell Refinery mm-hmm. in Fort Saskatchewan. Like a lot of people didn't know that, but that's what I did. I subletted furnished apartments because I had to support myself so I could train a little bit harder.
That's how you subsidize your boxing career. See you guys.
See ya.
Do you wish that you could just solely focus on boxing? You have to go. No.
Robbie, happy birthday. We'll see you later.
Happy birthday, Rob.
See you later. Sorry.
That's all right. Do you wish that you could solely focus on boxing, or do you find having other things that you can almost disconnect from boxing makes it easier? Do you like that compartmentalization?
This is what I find is interesting, because a lot of these guys, and this is maybe I shouldn't say millennials, but it is.
No. Bash us all you want.
This is what these millennials have all like, oh no, we just need to focus on this.
Right.
Like, you know. And I don't know where this started. Maybe it's like Sidney Crosby type of idea. It's like, oh, my kid's going to play in the NHL. He's going to be the best player. He needs to play hockey 24/7, 365, and since he's 12 years old. No, let kids be kids. You know what? You don't know who you are as a person until you're like 25. Like,
yeah, sometimes later.
Sometimes later. So you don't know what you're absolutely going to be passionate about, what drives you, what you're meant to do in life. Some people, like myself, are lucky enough to find what they're meant to do. I just happen to be really good at punching people in the face. But I think having different things to do and having like a full-time job, 1.5-time job, and boxing help me keep my focus and keep my goals going, and that sacrifice and that dedication that I had when I was working and getting through the beginning part of my career and developing who I am, the reason why it meant so much more was because I had that focus and that drive, and I made all those sacrifices.
We had to work for it too, right? Anything that you're handed, anything that comes easy is never as appreciated as if you have to work for it. That's basic
I've seen
humanity 101.
I've seen fighters come through the gym, probably 5-6 guys who have had sponsorship enough to like monthly sponsorship where they basically get paid to train and they throw it out the window because they get lazy, they get complacent, they have no work ethic, no drive.
Right.
And it's so sad to see. Like, you see a lot of guys who aren't very well off and are very, they're living whatever job to job they can get so they can support themselves through boxing. Like, you look at back in my era, like, and a lot of these guys are starting to retire, which is sad, but like, boxing has always this bad rap of like people are from the ghetto and it's a rough life, and they were gangsters and mobsters and street kids because they did what they had to do to support themselves. Mm-hmm. So it's always, I guess, typically a very poor sport because you don't need much to start boxing.
No, anyone can do it, right?
You don't even need running shoes. Like, you can wear any kind of sneakers as long as you get into the gym. Mm-hmm. There's all the gear you need, and anybody can work out. Yeah. There's a lot of non-profit gyms that all you need to do is show up. Mm-hmm. Show up and work hard. And so some of these kids, like, and this is more in the States too, developed to be quite good. Mike Tyson is a great example of this. Mm-hmm. Found something that he was meant to do and just took the bull by the horns and just rode it, as far as he could. Right.
To me, it seems fighting is like the great equalizer, right? It has no impact where you came from, what your parents do, how well off you were. If you're willing to just straight up outwork the other person and you've trained harder and are better, you're going to win.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's where I got a lot of animosity when I started boxing. It was like, oh, this like princess just wants to box. Right. And like people laughed at me. And like I remember this fight. It was actually, I can clearly remember it. I fought in Winnipeg. Mm-hmm. And it was my first or second fight out of town. And we fought this girl, and we walked into weigh-ins, and I'm with Milan, and he's a big guy, and he's like my dad, and everybody actually thinks he's my dad. Right. And we walk in, and like we had weighed in before because we were early, so then we had some water, and like I always am like right on weight, and then the weigh-ins and the rules and the medicals all started. And they asked me to step on the scale again. And my trainer's like, Milan's like, well, no, she already stepped on the scale. Mm-hmm. And the girl I was fighting, her dad was her coach. And they looked at me and they're like, it's okay. Like, it was going to be an easy fight. They're like, it's okay. You're fine. We just want to get the fight to happen. And so we ended up figuring out the like ruling and everything because I did actually do an official weigh-in before. Right. So we go to fight night. And we come out, and, like, I absolutely beat the crap out of her. First round, second round, and then they threw in the towel. I knocked her with a body shot, I think. Mm-hmm. And her dad came running across the ring and almost got in a fight with Milan, like my trainer. He's like yelling, he's like, you guys are a bunch of liars and fakes and phonies, and you act like this girl is just this princess and can't fight. And
you're like, that's the last thing I act.
And then like. my trainer looks at me and goes, we never said we couldn't fight. Yeah. He goes, we never said we couldn't fight. Not my fault she looks okay. And I remember laughing because he's like, you hustled us. And we're like, well, hey, this is the fight game. Nobody hustles anybody. And he's like, so I remember laughing, and I'm like, I'm always behind him when stuff goes down the ring. Right. He puts me behind him. Yeah. I was like, what was that all about? He goes, oh, he thinks we hustled them because you look like a princess. So listen, princess, let's move along. Let's get out of here before we get beat up.
On to the next one, right?
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. That's something you'd never consider, right?
Oh, I always get underestimated. I love it. Not anymore, but I used to, especially when I was younger. They're like, oh, here's this like pretty girl whose family is, well off. She doesn't need to fight. We're just going to totally take advantage of her.
That makes the come up just that much better, that much sweeter, right? When you get to prove people wrong.
Well, and I mean, my whole career is about proving people wrong. I even had when I lost, I went through that stint in my career where I lost like 5 out of 7 fights. Yeah. And, it was a tough time. I didn't have a lot of support. I actually had zero support other than my like family. Right. And you heard everything, like, Edmonton is mean. So I heard, like, oh, see, we told you she's just this pretty girl whose family bought her everything her whole way. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, when you fight for world titles, nobody can buy you shit, okay? I'm the one who bleeds, I'm the one who sweats, I'm the one who cries in that ring. That ring is my therapy.
Yeah.
Like, that ring
as messed up as that sounds,
that ring and I have been through a lot of shit, okay? Along with the, like, equipment room at Cougar Gym, where I've cried a lot of tears, but, you know, nobody, once you get in there, once that bell goes, nobody can save you.
Just you.
It's just you.
Yeah. So how at the end of the day do you ever silence the haters, the doubters, or do you just, you know, you're just confident in your records and you just
keep
go,
winning?
Yeah.
Listen, I've fought the best people in the world. I've fought everybody who's put in front of me. You know, now at this point in time in my career, I've started to get paid for all of my hard work.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to fight. I was offered a fight with a girl from New York, and they, like, offered me peanuts. And I'm like, listen, I actually have the world titles.
Yeah.
Show me what you want for it.
Right.
So, you know, I think I just have to keep winning and by winning, I mean, like, winning spectacularly.
Yeah.
You know, like...
leaving no questions.
No
right?
questions.
Just
and it's been tough because I've been fighting in Europe quite a bit because they're paying me to go out there and can't fight here.
That's kind of the life, hey? Like, getting to travel.
Hey, and you can't... Well, you don't. Like, people think it's like, oh, that's cool. You went to go to France. That's so awesome. I'm like, listen, I stayed in a hotel. I had to boil water and cook chicken. Like, it isn't as glamorous as you think it is.
But you don't tag on an extra week at the end to go to the south of France?
I did a week after this last one just to get some R&R because I knew I was opening this studio.
Yeah.
So I did a week with my family after. We went to southern Italy.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, you work, you train, you take... There was something when we fought in Japan. I didn't get to see any of Japan. Like, I think Japan is so cool, and you travel so far. But I got
just out of reach, just out, like, you just can't.
You know what I got to
there.
see? The, like, little, like, where were we? Little Korea of Japan. Like, I didn't get to see anything.
Yeah.
Like, you're in and out of a gym. You're doing 2 days. You're, like, focused on what you have to do. Mm-hmm. At the level that I'm at, there is no time to sightseeing. One little mistake means you could be laying on the canvas instead of standing in it.
Right.
So, you know, I know everybody thinks, like, oh, it's so cool. You fought in Argentina. How awesome was Argentina? Mm-hmm. No, Argentina sucked. I lost my world title. I didn't even get to see anything when I was there. It sucked, okay? Yeah. But, like, things like that, like, you know, it's not a holiday, it's work.
I liken that to sort of working in hockey, like past tournaments I've done, like the World Juniors. I was like, that's so cool. You got to work for the World Juniors. Like, you got to be at all the games. It's like, yeah, I was in the bowels of the arena organizing volunteers while Team Canada was out there scoring. You know?
Yeah. So it's not as glamorous as it seems. And not only that, you're not sleeping in your own bed. You're not eating your own food. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't just get to chill and drive your own car. You're, like, ripping around, carrying things that, like...
But you love the process, and you love boxing, you love fighting, you love training, all that stuff. So it's all worth it in the end. So, Fight 50, what's going on?
You tell me.
I don't know any more than you do.
Well, Fight 50 we had announced to be here in March.
Yeah.
March 23rd, I believe.
Okay.
And then literally a day later, the Edmonton City Council declared a moratorium on combative sports in the city. So that affects boxing, pro wrestling, MMA, everything. Yeah. Kickboxing, like everything. And that was, as some people are describing it, a knee-jerk reaction to the Tim Hague incident. But it wasn't a knee-jerk reaction to the Tim Hague incident because Tim Hague incident, the tragedy happened in June. Yeah. So now you're all of a sudden doing this in December. Right. So if it was knee-jerk, then it should have been in June. Right. What's your take on that? Well, there was 4 events that happened after that event in the city that the city council makes money off of. Yeah. The UFC being the biggest, of course, and the commission and city council take a tax, like they take a percentage off of each ticket sold. Right. So why now though? And I mean, there was a big WWE event that got postponed in February too, right? Why not announce this after that? I think it's because now it's the time to everybody to renew their licenses. Okay. So, to be honest with you, I don't know. I feel like it was just, you're right, it was knee-jerk, but it wasn't regarding it. I think everything kind of falls into play. Yeah, the whole, I think, tipping of the scales was the Tim Hague thing, but I also think it was something that the city council currently is just not looking. Honestly, I'm so confused as to why.
Right? It seems no one was consulted. No one was even told. The Pro Wrestling Association found out through social media. They never even got a heads up. I don't know about the boxing community.
Do you want to know how I found out personally?
Yes, I do want to know.
I had Mark Pavlich phone me and tell me, "Did you hear about this?"
Right.
I'm like, "Hear about what?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Like,
and that sucks to have to hear from someone else when you should be in the know, right?
Shouldn't I have been consulted? Mm-hmm. Having fought all around the world and being an 8-time world champion, current WBC, WBA world champion, don't you think they should have asked me my opinion on how the commission is run? Mm-hmm. Don't you think I would have a little bit of insight?
I would say, I would say that you do. It seems like one of the biggest elements of this is they want it to move to a provincial commission versus a municipal.
That won't happen, though.
8 out of 10 provinces are currently provincial versus municipal.
Yes, and every municipality in Alberta, loves the way their commission is run.
Okay.
They all work together, unified, together as a business type thing, and they support each other. Mm-hmm. They don't fight against each other.
Right.
There may not always be agreements on rules or technicalities or even events. There definitely won't always be a unified answer.
Right.
However, and there'll be disagreements. However, together as a whole, they choose to work together, like within their municipality.
Right?
So there will not be a provincial commission in Alberta, at least not anytime soon. The other municipalities flat out say they do not want to do it.
And is that because they're just wanting to preserve their jobs?
No,
or do they think that
I actually think that they work well together. There's a reason why Edmonton, up until this happened, has been basically the Western Canada capital of combative sports.
Right. And in the east, it's Quebec?
Montreal, yeah. So, people know of Edmonton and Montreal for fighting in Canada. That's basically it. Mm-hmm. There are fights and combative sports that happen everywhere else, but it's not as popular, and this is because we worked together up until recently with our commission to put these events on.
Yeah.
So I guess it's working. It's been working well up till now. I don't understand why.
Right. So to me, it seems like a big element of it all is the medical record keeping, right? Making sure that there's consistent access to information across if it's going to say municipal commission, across all those commissions, so everyone's got access to the same records.
Right.
I mean, that to me doesn't seem complicated. You have one website where you can upload all this stuff or a database.
For your medical records, that's all private information.
Okay.
So there is already a database with boxing. Mm-hmm. It used to be called Fight Facts. It's now called BoxRec. So if you go onto BoxRec, like if we even search my name, it'll say all of my suspensions. It'll say when I fought, who I fought, where I fought. Mm-hmm. You can't keep medical records on a database because it's Privacy Act.
Right.
So I don't know what they're trying to argue. What, the medical records? They want to keep the medical records together? Well, then why are you invading my privacy then?
So do doctors in advance of a fight, or the ringside doctors, do they get people's medical records?
Yes. Like, I have medicals that I have to do, but
that's disclosed by the individual?
If you go on Fight Facts, so it'll say, according to my doc or my fight, so the Edmonton Commission, I last fought in France. So if you go to the France Commission would have suspended me for, I don't know what it is for 10 rounds, because I only fight quarterly mostly, but I think it's like a 30 or 60 day suspension.
Right. Why'd you get suspended?
You just automatically, the amount of rounds you do automatically suspends you. So if I go,
so you don't fight.
Yeah. So if I go 4 rounds, I'll be suspended 1 week.
Gotcha. Because they need to have a refractory period before fights, essentially.
Yeah, so that's what the commissions themselves do to ensure the safety of the fighters.
Yeah.
If you get TKO'd, you get a certain amount of suspension. If you get head trauma, then you need there's all these provisions that there is had.
Right, which makes sense.
Which is all governed.
Out, you have to wait longer, that kind of thing.
Which is all governed by your local commission or whatever commission it is.
Right. Okay.
So I'm saying I fought for a provincial commission. I fought in Ontario, and by far it was the worst place for me to fight.
Why is that?
Well, according to their commission, you have to do 24-hour weigh-ins. It was really hard to get a hold of. I can't even remember the commission member at the president at the time. It was a shit show to fight in Ontario. Like,
Okay.
I told Milan, I'm like, if we can avoid it, I never want to fight in Ontario again.
Right. Is it kind of like the bigger a commission gets, the more bureaucracy, the more red
it's
tape?
and like, listen, if you're the president of that commission, then you're basically an egomaniac.
Right.
And that was a lot of the issues that we found with a lot of the commissions, because you're like the head honcho.
Right.
With
the big mob boss.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
So at least that's been, as the fighter, my experience. I've fought all around the world, and like I said, I feel in my experience, Edmonton has been one of the safest and best commissions that I've fought for. And that's now having said that, I fought in France, I fought in Panama, I fought in Argentina, I fought in Tokyo, I fought in Ontario, I fought in Calgary, and even Chestermere, Alberta. So I've fought around the world. So I've had the experience, and a lot of my fights have been world title fights. So if the WBC and WBA say that our commission's fine, who's the city council to say that they're not?
Right. And they're just, they're touting it as we want to protect people, right?
100%. But this is the World Boxing Council, World Boxing Association. Do you know how many fights they promote per year? Or not promote, but are involved in per year? You would think they know a thing or two about a thing or two. So
there's a city council meeting on January 17th, I believe. And they said, Iveson said that they won't consider any exceptions to this moratorium until after that meeting.
So you know what position that puts me in, which is like heartbreaking. As a world champion, I have to defend my belts before a year.
If you don't do that, you lose
then
it?
I get stripped.
Really?
So I've chose to be in Edmonton. I love Edmonton. I've chose to reside in Edmonton. I've chose to make this my home, which not a lot of athletes do.
Could you have made more money elsewhere if you
absolutely.
would have moved? Yeah,
absolutely.
But you wanted to stay here.
I wanted to be an Edmontonian. I'm proud of my city. I love the people. I love the community. And so, we've had options to go everywhere. We've had... I could have been in Mexico. I could have been in Vegas, LA, New York. I could have went anywhere and been extremely successful. I chose to stay here, which has cost us a lot of money because we've had to fly in sparring partners. We've had to put them up, pay them to come here. And now my city that I'm so proud of will screw me over. I will get stripped of my world titles. Because by January 17th, whatever decision they decide to go with isn't enough time for us to put a fight together to be able to fight and defend my world titles.
Right. What's that date? What's the year from your title?
It would be July, so end of June, but that's still not enough time. And plus, I can't be, according to our commission, if I've been inactive for 8 months to a year, I can only fight 8 rounds, according to our commission.
And you can't have a title fight for 8 rounds.
It's 10 rounds for women.
10 rounds.
So, according for our commission to even license me anywhere else, it needs to happen right away.
So how does that prevent you from fighting elsewhere, having this Edmonton moratorium?
How this works is when I fought in France, for example, the France commission had to get a written letter from our Edmonton commission, my local commission, saying that I was fit to fight.
Right.
That I was licensed. I was licensed as a fighter. So if there's no commission, how am I going to get a license?
But the commission still exists.
The commission still exists, but
they're just not granting permits to fights.
So basically, what
they're not allowed to
do?
say you can fight?
No.
Really?
But that's what that is.
So you can't even be licensed to fight elsewhere?
No, they're not issuing any licenses at all.
Wow.
Full ban on combative sports.
And no one's come to you and said, Jelena, as 8-time world champion, this is how we're going to handle your situation.
So I don't know why. Maybe because I was sending a couple of tweets out, and I've been on every interview and news and radio.
Yeah, doing the rounds,
speaking my mind, which is the only thing I know how to do.
Of course.
And with me is what you see is what you get. So obviously I've been very upset. And I'm still, baffled. I feel like this is, I went to one radio station, and I was like, this is some kind of sick joke. Yeah. I'm like, it's not April anymore. when is this like nightmare going to be over? Like, this is a joke. When is someone just going to say, "Hey, just kidding, we made a bad decision"?
Right.
When is the city going to own up to their mistake? That's what I want to know.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I'm all over. So the mayor's office called me personally.
Yeah.
I've done a ton of events. I've done a ton of charity work. The mayor came to my documentary premiere.
Yeah.
He spoke at it, and at this premiere, he's like, Edmonton is not only lucky to have a one-time world champion, but an 8-time world champion. We are so very lucky and proud to have her as an Edmontonian. We support her, and we'll do whatever we can to support her.
We'll do whatever we can unless we put a moratorium on boxing in Edmonton.
So, the mayor's office called me, and they're like, "We just want you to know you're on the mayor's radar." I'm like, "He wanted to contact you," and I was like, "Well, but he didn't contact me. You are."
He's on Twitter. He could have tweeted at you. He could have done anything. Called you. Whatever.
So
you queue up that clip for him of him speaking and saying that. I mean, like 6 months ago, 8 months ago.
It's been so frustrating. Like, I am just
you're still in limbo.
So when was this moratorium announced? Like the 7th?
Yeah, 12 days ago.
12 days ago-ish. So it'll be 2 weeks Friday. My life in the last 2 weeks, I've opened a studio, I've done charity events, I judged a high school dunk contest. Like, I do so much in the community that these last 10 days have felt like they've been 2 months of my life.
Right.
I'm still in shock and awe. I don't know. It's hard to not know where your life is going. Like, I had a schedule. I'm opening the studio up beginning of January. We're getting out of the way. I was supposed to start training because I don't know what people think. Do they think we just, like, tomorrow, I get a fight, I'm going to defend my world title? Like, no, this takes 12 weeks minimum of two-a-days. Yeah. Minimum. Like, for something like this, because I've had such a layoff, like, I'm going to have to train for, like, 16 weeks. Like...
So will you go on January 17th and speak your piece?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. There was a case like this, maybe like 16 years ago. And Milan gave me the name of the gentleman. And I remember the story, but I don't remember the details. Like, but the WBC somehow didn't grant this one fighter a fight. And he ended up suing the WBC for $30 million. Actually almost bankrupt the WBC.
So he won?
He won.
Yeah.
Because they stripped him of his title. Something about it was the organization just banned something. Mm-hmm. And I remember the story, but again, this was like 15 years ago. This is when I started. So actually, when I first fought for my world title, we weren't sure if the WBC was going to be around anymore because they got sued for $30 million and they won. So they settled outside of court.
Right.
But this is like essentially like the same thing. Like, I could get stripped of my world titles / my career when really my career in women's boxing is really starting to take off.
Right.
Not really starting, it is taking off. Like, the last 2 years of my career, I've been paid quite a bit to fight. Like, nothing near the men, and women's fights are on TV. So now you're saying to me, the City of Edmonton is basically robbing me of my future, my legacy, my career. This moratorium will force me into retirement because I refuse to fight not as a world champion.
Right.
So what are my options? Can someone please advise me of my options? Because I can't fight anywhere else and I can't be stripped of my world titles.
Yeah. It's unbelievable that it's
How sad is that? People don't
is.
understand actually the scope of what the city has done. It's not like, it's no big deal, it'll come back in a year. Mm-hmm. In a year, at 35 years old, that's everything. Right.
When you're at the very least owed an explanation of, here's the consideration we put into your case. I mean, like, it's just incredible that they haven't talked to you about this.
I've announced my 50th fight. Like, that is an iconic fight. It's not my last fight, but it's an iconic fight. Mm-hmm. I've said no to multiple fights in Europe for a ton of money.
You want to do it here,
but I wanted to do it at home. And I've fought on the road. I fought one time in 3 years in Edmonton.
Yeah. It's time to come home, right?
Yeah, like, you have to fight for your life everywhere else. At least, I don't get decisions here, but at least I get to fight in the comforts of my own house. I get to sleep in my own bed.
You're boiling your chicken at home.
At home. With my dog. Okay? Like, just leave us alone.
So you're kind of playing the waiting game right now, which is unfortunate. Are there any proactive steps you can do in the community can do? What can people do?
I've just been trying to get the community to speak out. Like, we have a voice, you know, we have the freedom of speech. Like, you know, we might not get a lot of choices apparently in our city anymore, but maybe we can speak out and maybe we can try and change this. I don't think the city council realized how much of an impact they had on everybody's lives, their livelihoods, their careers.
It's not just professionals, but it's everything, right?
It's everything.
It's gyms, it's amateurs. Like it's a trickle down effect, right?
Like if this was just a fight gym, I would have invested millions of dollars into nothing.
Yeah.
Like, well, you know, if I didn't gear this up to be a fitness studio, if I didn't have my sisters to inspire me and be my muses for this place, I would have lost my shirt. They would have bankrupted me.
That's insane. So what can people do? January 17th, show up? Is that the most important thing?
I think they can show up, but they can also speak out. Like, I mean, I'm gonna get all of my friends, quote unquote, like as many inspirational and influential people in my life to try and write letters. Because when I go there, I want to have support. So it's writing letters. What else? Like showing up, calls, showing up, basically causing a scene. Causing a scene. Okay. Yeah. Hack the culture and attention of city council, and we just show that people care about this, right? Yeah. You know, like I feel like I've been through so much in this city, and the city has been behind me for so long. The people of Edmonton, the Edmontonians, have supported me forever. Like, it'd be sad. Like, you know, I will go in history as the first ever WBC super featherweight female world champion. I'll go in history in the Boxing Hall of Fame for my accomplishments. But this tarnishes my legacy. I really truly do believe that, and as Edmontonians, I feel like we're proud of me. Like, I feel like I've done enough we should be. Like, so. You had a whole documentary made on you. That's a big deal. They did an awesome job. Which can also be found on TELUS Optic Video on Demand and YouTube. Yes. Good job, Group Picks. Yeah, they did a great job. Yeah, it was phenomenal. Yeah, it's won a bunch of awards too. I got to the second premiere, not the big fancy one. Oh, you missed the fancy one. Well, yeah, things going on. Actually, I think my invite got lost in the mail. So tell people about when Champs Boxing Studio is opening. What can they look for? What can they get here? So this whole concept is high intensity cardio boxing, coupled with some hit exercises in the workouts. It's basically gloves on, lights out, and get to work kind of thing. So we are opening in January. January 9th is our official launch. We've had some classes here and there for little teasers, but we'll be full going January 9th. Yeah. 9th? Awesome. Yeah, we're super excited. We've had a lot of interest about it. I think this is going to be the new IT workout of Edmonton. Yeah. And I'm excited for the ride and the journey and the experience. Get tough, get ripped. Get out some aggression, Boxing is punching things is so therapeutic. It's unbelievably therapeutic. Like, you go in with like a problem, something on your mind, and you just leave like serene. So for me, it's I've actually, through boxing, I've worked at a lot of inner city gyms, and just through the discipline and the workout and the experience of boxing, I've seen a lot of kids change their lives. So punching stuff is really therapeutic. Perfect. Well, thank you for the opportunity to this city and everyone in it to get involved. Thank you for everything you've done for Edmonton, giving us a reason to be proud of Edmonton when the Oilers are in the decade of darkness. Like our City of Champions. I still brought the champion into the city. Yeah, exactly. You're perfect fit for this podcast, and I want to have you on here again as things go down the line and we sort of get some of your future cleared up a little bit. Yeah, when I'm not as confused as to what's going on with my life. Well, exactly, but it's nice to see the process along the way, and
and also, you know, shows people that not everyone has it figured out all the time, but as long as you're taking the right steps and going forward, that's where progress happens, right? Incremental steps forward.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on.
All right. Thanks, Jelena.
Okay.
See ya. As always, guys, much love and appreciation for listening. Your support has just been astounding to me. Let me know what you liked about this episode, who you want to hear on the next episode, and don't forget January 17th, the City Council meeting to get this combative issue solved. Talk to you then.